Okay, welcome back to the Caribou Media Outdoors podcast. With me tonight is Jeff Cordero. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. How you doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for jumping on here. I know it's I've been following you for a bit, but I know it's hard agreeing to do things like this when no actual episode's been published yet. So
Dude, it's all good.
some people are like, yeah, and then it's like, anyway, yeah, it's good. It's been working out. I've done a few so far just to kind of build them up, and it's working out. Um, so I think I was trying to rack my brain. I think the first video of yours I saw was the one about the ethos that you did
Okay.
probably about a year ago. How long had you been on YouTube? How long have you been on YouTube since then?
I want to say I started YouTube probably 2020. Yeah,
Okay.
2020 sounds right.
Yeah.
It was not something I particularly set out to do,
Hmm.
but we're kind of in that COVID time, and I was going to school for the second time because the first time I dropped out to go racing, and I'm sure we'll get into that. And then I was going to school because eventually athletics and racing and changing tires doesn't last forever. So I needed something else and couldn't go to school anymore because everything was shut down. And my wife kind of asked, she goes, "Do you really want to go to school?" Like what I was studying was athletic training, physical therapy. She's like, "Did you really love doing that?" And I'm like, I don't want to say I love it, but I enjoy it.
Hmm.
And she goes, if you didn't have to choose what you wanted to do for work, what would you do?" And I was like, "I'd go hunt." Like I'd get someone to pay me to hunt and shoot bows, etc. And she goes, "Well,
Yeah.
how do you do that?" And we just kind of reverse engineered it. And she's just like, you
Yeah.
start, well, it's like, you just start creating content.
Yeah.
So I started putting up some YouTube videos, which are still up there. Every video I've ever posted is still there. And
Yeah. Yeah.
the first ones are rough, but they
Oh
get
yeah.
better.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's still ones I post now that I'm just like not super thrilled about or don't think I could have done a better job. And yeah, that's kind of how I got started. It was never an intention of I don't want to say there was never an intention to make money at it um, or monetize it, but there was never an intention of like I'm going to do this because I want to be YouTube famous or like an influencer. It was kind of just like if I can do this and it works out, like that's great. And if it doesn't, I still at this point I still enjoy making the content because I can't tell you how many people I talk to who just they either have an answer or they have a question for something and they go to YouTube to search it, you know. And
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
my little tidbit on how to fletch an arrow or do something, you know, is informational to one or two people, then I've helped that person out because I've been the person, just like I'm sure you have been down the rabbit hole of YouTube trying to figure out how to do something. So
Oh yeah.
that's kind of how it started, and that's kind of how it's still going.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny, like, I look at some of the older stuff that I've done. I got a couple of comments the other day on some really, really, like, I wanna say maybe 3 or 4-year-old videos. I'm like, "Oh my god, somebody watched that?" Like,
Oh, dude, they
"Oh,
come up. I get the notification. I'm like, you.
no."
Oh, why did you watch that one? How did you find that?
Yeah, because 'cause we're always in our mind going to the next, "What's the next one gonna be? How can I
Yeah.
make this better? What's the next one gonna be? How can I make this one better?"
Or
And
it's a
then
topic you've done once, and then 2 years later you've revisited
oh,
because
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
you found something else, or you realized the first time you did something like I could make this better, or I have a different method of doing this. And then they
mhm.
watch that one. I'm like, why didn't you watch this one? This
Yeah,
one's
no,
newer.
no, that's right, that's right.
I'm way
Yeah.
better at editing on this one.
Yeah, that's right. I got a better camera this far
Yeah.
forward.
The audio levels aren't all over the place.
Yeah, that's kind
Yeah.
of how I got, like, I'm a visual learner, so I always like watching videos and stuff. So I think I was first looking up like the muddy camera arm, like the really old one.
Oh yeah.
And I saw some guy, and I'm not trying to be mean or anything. He was doing his best, right? But he was like sitting in one corner and the camera was in the other. You could barely hear what he was saying, and I couldn't even see what he was doing. And I was just like, I'm gonna try. It was that, and then after shooting the first bear I ever shot out of a tree stand, I was like, I wish I had that on film to look at again, right? And then it just kind of got the thing rolling, and that's kind of why I started. I wanted to put my own spin on things, but yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think I watched your ethos video probably like 28 times just because it was so good. And I was
Okay.
obsessed. I was obsessed with it because I think the Omnia and then the Ethos were the first two elite bows that I kind of gravitated to just by the look of the riser really caught me, and I was just like, those look pretty good. How did you find the Ethos to the Exalt that you've been shooting?
Well, I've been shooting the Exalt a lot lately. Um, I mean, I did 100 with it all elk season. I pulled the Ethos back out for whitetail here in North Carolina, tree stand. It's a little more maneuverable, and I was sitting in
Yeah,
blinds a couple times, and the Exalt's not terrible, but I kind of wanted to turn it into my target bow for this year for indoor. So it was kind of just like, um, I almost like shooting the Ethos more. I definitely like the Ethos more as a hunting bow. It's a little bit
hmm
more do it all purpose hunting bow. So if you're someone who wants to hunt most of the time, but you want to be able to go shoot 3D or go shoot the TAC or the mountain archery fest with your buddies, the Ethos is a great option. It's plenty long enough axle to axle length to fit me as a 30-inch, 29 and a half, 30-inch draw length. I feel comfortable behind it. It's got plenty of speed. It's very forgiving. But the Exalt is a little bit taller. It's a little bit heavier. It's got the target cams on it, which are still great cams. But I don't know. I just feel like I don't. I went hunting, elk hunting with it twice, and I'd probably do it again because I was kind of expecting some longer shots where I went hunting because just the way the terrain was set up. So I
yeah,
built the most stable platform I could. So if I had to shoot out to 80 or 90, I felt utmost had the utmost confidence in my equipment because if I knew I had a longer axle to axle bow at home that I shot maybe a little bit better longer, it just sit in the back of your head and you just be like, "Oh, I should have just carried around that extra pound."
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I think both of them are great. I think if hunting bow wise, I would gravitate towards the Ethos a little bit more, and if I was looking for more of a target bow that I could take hunting on a western hunt every now and then, I'd go towards the Exalt. But both of them
hmm
are great. They feel very similar. One's just a tick taller, but it's got the smaller cams on it, and the Ethos is a little bit shorter, but it's got the bigger cams on
Bigger
it.
games.
So string angle feels pretty similar. I'd be curious to
hmm
check it to see how close they are, but they feel close
Yeah,
enough.
yeah. I was thinking that too. Have you tried any of the new ones that just came out with the?
I haven't. Um, I'm going to be shooting. We're gonna try to get them into our local shop coming up in the first of the year, and then after that, I'm gonna try to do reviews on all of them. I went to Elite before they dropped and got to check them out, and that was really cool. But I didn't really get a lot of time to like shoot them
Right,
and
to
really
really
play with them. I
have an
got put
opinion.
hands on them and check them out, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. I know a
hmm
lot of people that have, but there's no shop around me in the Charlotte area that carries Elite.
hmm
So it's kind of like you have to know somebody who has one, or you have to venture out to go see one. Um, and I don't particularly want to just buy the bow to review it. So,
No.
like I said, our local shop in Charlotte is getting them after January 1st. I think they're getting teamed up with Elite. So that'd be
Well, that's
cool.
good.
We'll actually have someone local.
Yeah, that's always hard. Like I know the shop near me, I think they have like Hoyt, Matthews, PSE, Bowtech. They used to have Elite, but they don't anymore. They don't carry Prime. I think they could order it for you if you absolutely wanted one, but they kind of steer you towards
That's how
the
the
other ones,
shop
right?
is. They have accounts with all these other bow brands. So if you wanted to get one, they could go order one for you, but it's I don't really particularly want to order one on their dollar just to review it and then them have to eat it and
Yeah.
sit on the shelf.
Yeah. Oh,
So
thanks. No, no, I'm not interested. Yeah.
yeah, actually I don't really like it. Oh, but
Yeah.
you took my money up front. Cool.
So when did you I always like going back in time a little bit. When did you first pick up a bow and how did that kind of transition into archer or into bow hunting for you?
I'm the adult onset hunter. I didn't pick up a bow until I was probably 29 or 30, probably
Oh,
29. Yeah, so about
okay.
8 years ago. It was simply where I was working at the time. It was a long drive to work. It was about 70 miles. So three of us carpooled, and two of the guys I was carpooling with hunted a lot. They gun hunted mostly, but they still pulled their bows out for archery season. And it was just kind of one of those things that they were talking about it a lot in the car, and it just I'm like, "Ah, that sounds kinda interesting." Like, I definitely wanna hunt. I haven't hunted, so
Mhm.
my 2 options are gun hunt or rifle hunt or archery hunt, and archery hunting gave you more time in the field. and
Yep.
I didn't have to go get a gun range membership and then go, sight that thing in once a month, or, ammo's expensive. I could literally take my bow and go shoot it in my little backyard I had in the HOA that I lived in at the time, and any day I wanted to. And that's kind of how I got involved. And then that was about the same time where all the Joe Rogan was talking about it. Cam Hanes started blowing up on Instagram, and it just kind of was like that fueled the fire of like, yeah, this is cool. This is something I want to do.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That's awesome. Just want to take a quick break to talk to you about a couple of things that I've been using that I think might benefit you. One is this Numa Outdoors gear. This is in their Kaza OV pattern, which is great whitetail pattern when you're up in a tree in the fall and late season. They also have a Kaza pattern which has more green in it, which is good for spring through to the fall. Numa has given me a code to give to you of Caribou Media 20, which will save you 20% at checkout. Another product here that I've been using for years now is the Bulldog targets. This is a Canadian made target. They're made in Manitoba. They have a lifetime warranty. I've used that warranty twice now on a couple of my larger targets that are outside. It's very simple, very easy. These targets are 2-finger removal every single time, which is incredible. Field point only target. Bulldog's been gracious enough to give me a 20% discount code to give to you at checkout. Use code BD20-Caribou-Media. That'll save you 20% on these awesome targets. Now back to the show. Okay, so getting into your full-time job, how does somebody get into being a tire changer for NASCAR?
I wish I could tell you how, but there's so many different paths on how people get there. And the path that I took, I don't really think exists anymore.
Okay.
So, for me, I grew up short track racing in Connecticut. I never drove race cars, but I worked on them. I had a friend in high school who had a race car. I mean, my dad taught me how to change tires, change the oil, and I wasn't really afraid to like take things apart as a kid. So nuts and bolts on things, like, yeah, I might not know how to do it, but if I can pay attention to how I took it apart, I should be able to put it back together the same way, or fix it. It's just there's no magic to it. It's just parts and pieces. So started doing the racing thing, helping him out. And then one thing led to another. I started helping somebody else out, and I started helping somebody else out in Connecticut. And then finally I got on a team in Connecticut that did a little touring series. We toured mostly up and down the East Coast. And that was kind of one of those things. The next step was either do this for the rest of my life, stick with plumbing and heating and enjoy that life, or quit school, quit plumbing, and go
All in.
move to North Carolina from Connecticut and just chase racing, and which is what I
Nice.
did. So I kind of got down here. I knew how to work on race cars, which not many people that are getting into the pit crew side of it know that anymore. I guess I should say what I do. So I'm a front tire changer on the 24 car for William Byron in the Cup Series. Been doing it for 15 years. This will be my 16th season coming up. Most of the guys that get into the sport now get into it via athletics. Either they play D1 football, hockey, baseball, something along those lines, because what we do in the pit stop is so athletic.
Mm-hmm.
Athleticism is the hardest thing to teach. I can take someone who is very athletic, who has marginal hand-eye coordination, and teach them how to change tires or carry tires on a pit crew, and probably be competent in maybe 6 to 8 months. Competent, not up to speed. But if you take someone who's unathletic, who has all the hand-eye coordination, you try to teach them how to do it, you have years of athleticism to like layer on top of each other to get there. So now they take guys that are just athletic. But 15 years ago, when I got into it, they wanted guys that knew how to work on race cars, that can work in the shop, build race cars, and that had some sort of athleticism to do pit stops. But
Mm-hmm.
athleticism wasn't like a main focus point that they were looking for. So at 21, I was just athletic enough. I could just barely run a mile under like 7 minutes, and I had less muscle than I do now, but I was still kind of strong enough to like do the job, but I had the drive. So that's kind of how I got into it. I just packed everything up, moved to North Carolina, went to a
Mm-hmm.
school down here where they kind of taught you how to do pit stops, and then just hustled, and hustled.
Yeah, it's
Finally got a
crazy.
job. Once you get one job in the sport, it's easy. It's easy to keep a job if you do good at it, and just like anything else. And your competitors, the other teams you're competing with, or potential employers, is always looking for someone else they can get that's going to help their team. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
good at what you do in the sport, there's always a team that's looking to hire you, or take you from the team that you're at. So
Yeah, I was going to ask, is there a lot of changeover? Like, do people jump from team to team, or is there pretty good loyalty as long as they obviously renew your contract or whatever, or want to keep you on?
I think it depends, person to person. There's a lot of people in this sport that are just very fortunate to do what we do for a living, and they love it. It pays well. They can support their family on it. They enjoy it, and they might work at the same organization for 20 years. And then there's guys like myself. I started at a team that maybe wasn't as successful as I wanted to be. Moved to another team, got a taste of success, won a race, and then proceeded. Next couple contract cycles to position myself to be on better cars with better organizations to win more races, go fight for championships. And that's what I've ended up doing. So
Wow.
I would say the turnover is it's kind of if you're really good at your job and your employer wants to keep you, it's easy to stay. But at the same time, you have to understand what you're doing it for. Are you doing it
Hmm.
because it pays well and you enjoy it and it's a good job and you're not getting hit in the head, playing football? Or
Yeah.
do you want to win championships? Do you want to win races? Like those are things you have to take into account.
And do you have to get to the venue a few days beforehand, before the
No,
actual race, or is it right on
we
race
got
day kind
a
of thing?
yeah, we got a pretty cush schedule. As pit crew athletes nowadays, we pretty much fly in race day morning, go straight from the little FBO airport we fly into, take the minivan to the racetrack, pit the race car. When we get done, head back to the airport, get on the plane, come home.
Wow.
So there's a couple of it. There's a handful of us that pit the series on Saturday, which is the Xfinity series. So we'll go out Saturday morning, pit that race, go to the hotel, wake up, go to the racetrack again, pit on Sunday, and then go home. It's just a little extra pay. It's a little bit more racing, a couple more opportunities to win, and yeah. So it just kind of depends on what deal you have, which one you want to do. If you want to do multiple series or just one. But
Nice.
yeah, it's not like F1. I've talked to some of those F1 guys, and they
Oh,
travel out there like way ahead of time. They have to set everything up. They were astonished that I'm like, yeah, man, by the time this race is over, I'll be home in like 4 hours. And they're like, what are you talking about? We don't even we haven't even started to take the car apart in 4 hours. It takes us 2 days to take it apart and put that thing on
oh,
the crate to
on
send
this
it
on the
off. I'm
crate.
like, oh no,
Yeah.
oh no.
So it's just spinning back to archery there. You did a broadhead video recently that's doing really well. Did you have a couple favorites from that you from
I
that
don't.
video?
There's not a broadhead in the videos that I wouldn't shoot. They're all
Right.
broadheads I've either shot before or I will shoot in the future or I have confidence to shoot. Yeah, I don't think there was really one that I was like over the moon excited about. Kind of like everybody else this year, I was excited to shoot something with a beast broadhead to see what it did.
Yeah.
Never ever got that opportunity this year.
Hmm.
Know a couple people that did kind of have some mixed reviews on it, but they're not my reviews, so I can't really speak to it.
Right.
But yeah, all those broadheads that I shot in those videos, I would some of them you'd have to tune to the bow, and some of them flew a little better than others, but none of them where I was like, "Oh, I'd never put this in my quiver."
Yeah, I think they've come a long way from the days where they don't open, or there's always
Yeah,
complaints of that, right? And you've been using the evolutions a fair bit.
for a year, yeah.
Yeah.
So I shot one last year, shot him this year. I shot one last year that I borrowed, and then I was like, I'm getting a whole quiver full of them this year. I just like the design. It's the hide. It's the one that's the mechanical. It opens up in the
The
back, and it's got the fixed blade in the front.
Yeah.
I just think you're getting the best of both worlds. And if you're someone who's worried, well, what if it doesn't open? You still have a 3/4 inch cut with the fixed blade, and the way the blades are for the mechanical, that the way they're angled and how they're positioned, it's still a 3/4 inch cut. So it's like shooting a Micro Hades Pro,
Right.
or the Micro Hades 4 blade. It's the same cutting diameter,
Hmm.
and I know people that shoot elk with those, so it's why not try to get the best of both worlds? At someone with my draw length, anything over, I think like I don't even want to put numbers on it, but the normalish draw length with an adequate amount of poundage, if you're shooting probably over 60 pounds, you could shoot a mechanical in just about any situation, in
Yeah.
my opinion. They've come a long way. They open very reliably and they stay shut when they should, unless you push them into your quiver too hard and pop them out. But that's on you. That's not the broadhead's fault.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Arrow setup. What were you running this year? Are you doing the
I ran
ultras? Or are you changing or what?
no, well, I ran a couple. I can't. Okay, so the way I think about archery is the way I think about race cars. No two race cars are ever the same. So no two bow setups are ever the same. There's never the perfect arrow setup. I don't believe in it. I think that you're always trying to tinker a little bit to find something that maybe works a little better, maybe is a little more forgiving, or maybe it's just something different. I can't tell you how many times we've come in to do adjustments on race cars and the driver's complaining about it, and we don't do anything except put a new set of tires on. He goes back out there and he's like, "Oh, this thing's awesome all of a sudden." So
What'd you guys do?
sometimes it's yeah, nothing. But sometimes it's just a matter of changing arrow setups. Like if I'm
Yeah.
not shooting well, or I had a bad experience, like just changing the arrow setup to something very similar, flies the same. My sight tape is about damn near the same. I now have confidence again. So I shot the ultras. I shot the ultras last year. I shot the 4mm ultras again this year for elk season. And then the UV arrows came out. I got a dozen of those
Oh,
to
right.
shoot, and I shot those. I really do like the way they shoot. I feel like they do stabilize a little bit better in the air. I had tighter groups at longer ranges. I was just not thrilled with the whole. At the time they came out, they didn't have like the parts kit to like refletch them and do all of that. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I shoot a fletching off, or I shoot 2 holes in fletchings. I'm like, okay, I'm already
Done.
down 3 arrows and I've only been
Yeah.
shooting for 10 minutes. And I'm like,
Yeah.
it's awesome they have consistency, but when I'm stacking a group there at 60 yards, on the size of the bottom of a soda can, it's like you're gonna ruin stuff. And then, yeah. So, but I also enjoy building arrows. I like, sitting out here and grabbing all the components and trying 3 fletch, trying 4 fletch, different stuff. So, yeah, I ran the ultras, which were 508 grains, and then I ran the UV arrows, and they were I think right around 475. But those are the 2 arrows that I really run. I think my ideal hunting arrow is between like 470 and 500. However,
Okay.
the componentry comes out depending on the GPI of the shaft. But yeah,
So are you chasing a certain speed, or you just like that particular weight?
I just like the weight because I feel like I can get a lot of speed. I can shoot 285 to 300 feet a second with those weights, depending on the poundage of the bow, which is going to keep my pin gaps a little bit tighter, which is going to build me in a little bit more forgiveness, further, guessing yardage, even though I guessed on an elk this year and I was wrong, but it went under, so we didn't hurt anything in this. But it keeps my pin gaps tighter, and then I know, like, I don't know, I just like tighter pin gaps. I don't have a problem tuning them, and anything up to like 300 feet a second,
Mhm.
depending on the broadhead you're shooting in the front. If you're shooting a mechanical, I really haven't had any issues with it, and I can get an iron will to fly consistently out to 80. So shooting around 285,
Mhm.
290.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how tight those, um, Ultraview arrows are just with the weights and they but then they come out without the components. I'm like, "Oh, no." Like, what are you gonna do when you put a hole through one of the fletchings? Or like, it's just
Yeah,
like,
I mean now
uh,
they have that. You can get the refletch kits and everything, and I don't know. I still like playing with it. I want to try the Victory shafts, the HLR shafts,
right.
the new
Yeah,
ones,
I saw those.
the 1.5K weaves. So I want to
Just that
try those
much
out.
better?
Oh, I know. It's like I'm sure they had that sitting in their back pocket, like, hey,
Yeah,
we'll give you the 1Ks, it's a better marketing idea than the 1.5. But yeah, I might play with those. I like how light they are. I think having that tighter weave probably does stabilize the arrow a little bit faster in the air.
mhm.
And maybe that helps trajectory and whatever. So, but I want to be able to put different fletchings on. I mean, I have a half a dozen UV arrows that I've already kind of ruined in the back. I might just cut them off and stick some air razors on it,
Yeah,
and see how they fly. Why not? So,
why not, right? You never know.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that's awesome. So I have to ask you, how did it feel when you got that phone call that you won the tack truck?
Uh, it would have been great if I didn't screen the call and ignore it. I don't know, like, who's
I
calling me
probably
from
would have.
Indiana? Yeah, like,
Yeah, I don't know anybody there. Nope.
well, I'll give you the quick rundown on how I screened the call and why, I guess. We raced, I wanna say it was, like, Michigan that weekend, and we got rained out. So we raced on Monday. And anytime we get rained out on Sunday and we race on Monday, it throws your whole week off because you get into this very repetitive schedule of Sunday, Monday off, Tuesday work, Wednesday work, etc. And like it's a cycle. I don't really particularly know what day it is. I just know what I have to do that day. And then because of that, I know what day it is. Like the off season right now, like it's Monday, but I didn't know it was Monday until I got the notification, for this. And me and my
Yeah.
wife have some plans tomorrow. So it's like, yeah.
Perfect.
So it's just, so we raced on Monday. So we came home and I remember seeing the post on Wednesday, like, oh, tack truck going live Wednesday, 5 Central Time or wherever they're at. So I was like, oh, that's cool. That's tomorrow. I'll make sure I pay attention to that. And then sitting on the couch, I think me and my wife were playing Dr. Mario on like Super Nintendo, which is like the game we play. And
That's
she
awesome.
destroys me in it. But we're sitting there and I get a phone call. I kind of look down and I'm like, I don't know that number. I'm just gonna let it go to voicemail, just like with all the spam calls these days. So
Too
like a
many.
half hour, yeah, a half hour later, like we stopped to like whatever bathroom break or like she had to check something on her phone. And I just pull it up and I'm like going through emails and I'm like, oh, they left a voicemail. Let's see what telemarketer this is. I click on it and I'm reading the auto transcript of the voicemail and I'm like, what? And I like rewound it, put it on speaker, and we're listening to it. And it's like, hey, just give us a call back. Congratulations on the truck. And I'm like, did I just win the truck? She's
Don't
like,
worry. Don't worry. We won't
you might
draw
want to
another. We won't
you
draw
might want to
another
call
name.
him back.
Yeah.
So call him back. He's like, yeah, man, congrats, you're the one. Like I didn't see the live video until they sent me a link to it because like I was like, oh, it's Tuesday because like we practiced early that morning.
Yeah.
Like we would do on a Tuesday, but it was Wednesday because everything got shifted and I just lost track of days. And I was like, wow, I had like this whole thing too that I was gonna like, because making content, you try to make content, like I've done it the last couple of years where like I'm watching the live and I'm like recording myself watching the live so I can get like the reaction, like when it happens. And then like I was like, oh, I'll do that tomorrow. Like didn't even think twice like what day it was. And I was like, I totally missed the one opportunity to get this on camera. So no, it's cool. It's an awesome truck. I've
Hmm.
already pinstriped the hell out of it. Um, Taking it hunting, about got it stuck once, chewed up the tires a little bit on some rocks. So
Well, I
that's
don't
what it's
blame you
made
for
for.
taking the wrap off because that's basically a beacon, right?
Well, yeah. So like if I wasn't, I know a buddy of mine who won it a couple of years before. I didn't know him at the time, but I know him now. AJ won it when it was like the camo, like the green camo truck. Um, he still has his wrap on his, and he shoots a bear bow. He has shot a bear bow, so it was kind of just like he loves it. But I'm like, yeah, I can't make content with that. And like then, people have I have a hard enough time where people DM me a screenshot of a video that I made of like where we're hunting with this like mountain range or like this topography feature in the background, and they'll like tell me what unit I'm in, and I'm like, yeah,
Jeez.
congratulations. You spent way too much time
That's
Google
right.
imaging this, or this is your hunting spot and there's nothing
Yeah.
there. Don't worry.
No,
But
that's right. I
I
checked it
searched
for
all
you.
over the place. There's nothing there.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So it's just one of those things I was like, I don't really need it to be any more than a beacon than it is. But
Yeah.
no, it's a cool truck.
That tent though is really cool. You can just the whole thing. It's just like a campsite on wheels. That's wicked.
Spent 14 nights in that tent. No real complaints about it. The pad's cushy enough, and the only thing we did was if I have a video on YouTube about it, Elk Camp Cribs, Trucks Edition, and I read a bunch of stuff on the forums, like it condensates real bad on the inside,
Right.
especially when you have all the vents closed and it's 20 degrees outside. So it condensates and then it runs all the way down and it soaks the end of your bag. So people put like marine
Mm.
carpet squares up on the roof to keep the condensation from running down. We did that and neither one of our bags got wet unless we touched the sides like we were rolling over at night. But that's kind of just to be expected, like with any
Right.
tent.
Um, how long have you been with First Form and tell everybody what that's all about?
Yep. So First Form and First Form Outdoors, it was not this past year, but the year before, they had it was the first year of the First Form Outdoor Games. But at the time, it wasn't called that. It was just the November Knockdown Challenge, which was a challenge they did in November. Kind of similar, if anyone's seen like Dan Staten with Elk Shape, he's got the December Chub Challenge and gives you a workout. People do the workout, they post it on social media, and then he'll give out prizes every week. Well, First Form was doing something very similar to that, and it was kind of like that, kind of like the CrossFit Games, where they would post a workout, you would do the workout, shoot your arrows, submit your score, and if you won that week, like if you had the best score, they invited you out to First Form headquarters in St. Louis to compete for the November Knockdown Challenge finals. And there was 4 weeks of workouts. The workouts were not particularly hard. They weren't easy, but they weren't like complex. They were stuff that anybody could do. It was like burpees, push-ups, sit-ups, air squats, stepping over a box,
Mhm.
shuttle runs. It wasn't anything that like you needed equipment or skill to do. It was just essentially grunt work and then shooting your bow in between. And I won the box step over workout the week 3, submitted it, won, and they again shot me a message on Instagram. They're like, "Hey, congratulations, you won week 3." Like it came with a little prize pack for winning that week, and then they're like, "You're invited out here to compete when we bring everyone out." So they brought everyone out, and the workouts that were in the qualifier were like sub four, like 4 or 5 minute workouts, not particularly long. And then we go to St. Louis to compete in the first November Knockdown Challenge finals. And every workout there was like 30 minutes. It was like a slugfest with a ruck pack on. You're running with like weight and you're doing the sled pulls and you're carrying 100-pound sandbags down this hill like you're packing out an elk. And it was absolutely, I was very unprepared for what I thought it was going to be. And
And then
luckily,
you had to shoot you just shoot in between all that, right? Is that how it
yeah,
worked?
so
Yeah.
one of the workouts, for example, it was a 6/10 of a mile ruck around this water. You had a 30 pounds in a go ruck bag. You come back, you did like, I think it was like 10 burpees, and you had to shoot one arrow at, I think it was 37 yards. I have it on YouTube as well, the whole series of events. Then you go back around, you ruck that all the way around again. You come back, and it was like 20 push ups, and then you would shoot 2 arrows, and then you go run around again. And then you'd come back in, you'd do like 30 air squats, and then you'd shoot 3 arrows. And then your last arrow was the end of your time. But it was like a 35-minute workout because like trying to run with 30 pounds on your back for 6/10 of a mile on uneven terrain around this lake, it doesn't seem that bad, but it eats up on you pretty quick.
Yeah. What
And there
happened to the
was
5-minute ones we did to get here?
yeah, well, exactly. Well, they kind of sent out a list of stuff like before, like, hey, this is kind of like these are some of the things you might see. But no one
Mhm.
said, we're gonna do these 30-minute time domain workouts. So like the stuff I had done leading up, not only was I just training for just general physical fitness and all the sports specific stuff that I do for NASCAR, which is very quick, explosive movement, reactionary movements.
Yeah.
I go there and it's like 30-minute like grinders where you're just like putting one foot in front of the other and just trying to hold on. And there was a lot of very fit individuals that came there, and I was just fortunate enough to my fitness wasn't up to the level of some of those people that were there. They were definitely fitter than me,
Mhm.
but my archery skills definitely carried me where I was lacking in some of the workout events. I'm not saying I was finishing last in workouts, but I was finishing, you know, third to fourth in the workout, and then I would finish first or second on the arrow scoring part of the workout. So, and then you average it together, and I won by 2 points, and there was a
Oh,
three-way
wow.
tie for second. So it was
Oh,
very
wow.
close the whole time. Yeah, it wasn't like this runaway. Like I honestly thought again
I
when
get it.
we were doing the whole at the end of it, like announcing the leaderboard. They go up three-way tie for second. Well, they said third, and I was like, well, dang, I'm not third, but there's like 4 of us that haven't been named. So how is that possible? And then there's like a three-way tie for second. I'm like, oh, well, I gave it a good shot. I left everything out there. I tried really hard. And they
Yeah.
listed off 3 names, and I'm like, I wasn't one of those names. Oh my God. I won? Like, yeah. So that was cool. No, it was another thing. Like I went there, competed hard, and I thought I put myself in a position to do good, but I didn't think I put myself in a position to win. And that's kind of just where it goes to show like I've done a lot of the working out before where I'll do like some kind of like hit workout or CrossFit workout, and then in between rounds, maybe I'll shoot an arrow at 20 yards, or I'll shoot one kneeling at 30 yards.
Yeah.
It's the kind of stuff that like when you're hunting, your heart rate can be up if you're especially on the western stuff, and you come over this hill and you need to make that shot. Like I can't tell you the first couple times I did it in a workout, I mean, I was bobbing all over the place, couldn't get into the pin, couldn't get the shot to go off, and you're like way off the side of the target. And I'm like, I need to do this more because if I was in that situation and I know it was an animal, I'd feel really bad about myself. So
Mhm.
that's kind of was I was preparing to do that stuff kind of before the internet challenge came out, and it just kind of fell right into the wheelhouse of like, oh, these are quick, fast domain workouts, which I'm good at. And I can just dump the tank, shoot these arrows. I know I can do it. It's only 20 yards, scored well. And then, like I said, it just propelled me. And that's kind of what I still do now. I don't do as much of it during hunting season, but I do a lot of it pre-hunting season and especially during the summer.
Yeah. And is your home gym finished now? The construction?
It's finished. It still needs some things. My electrician's been dragging his feet pretty bad. So I need to get him out here. I need to call him again to put power into it. But I have more equipment than the average home gym goer. But it's a thing that me and my wife have always prioritized in our life. Like we've always had a workout space. It started in our garage, and we started with a couple barbells that we bought off a CrossFit gym that was closing down. We got a rower as a housewarming gift from my parents. I think one year we bought a ski erg, and then we would buy some more plates where we could, and we'd pick up some kettlebells on marketplace. So we've kind of accrued stuff over the time. And then this year, when we built this dedicated gym space behind our house, it's 30 by 31. We put a Sornex rack
Nice.
in it, and we just all the way out. We're like, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it all the way out.
Just
We're never
go.
gonna have to.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're never gonna want anything, and we're never gonna have to do it again. Ideally, I'd love to have friends come work out, but we kind of live out a little bit further than most of the people that I work with or some of the friends that I have. So I don't think they're gonna drive 45 minutes to come work out, but it's always an option. And it's always open. So
Yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Like we're always driving to the gym. We live in the middle of like 1,000 acres of corn in the country, and like we've got this 4 acre farm with a barn. I got all kinds of space that I could ever need to shoot. Um, but we had animals when we first moved in here when the kids were younger, but now they're 18 and 15, and that ship sailed, right? So it just sits empty. So I just record in there, but my videos in there. But I just sometimes I just wish I could just push it over and build a bigger actual
something
space
different.
that yeah, something different that I could have, the studio side of it, but then also have a gym and just be able to walk out the door and walk in there and just get it done.
It's nice having that kind of stuff at the house, but I know plenty of people who've built or have done dedicated spaces and they end up not getting
Not
used.
using it. Yeah.
It's definitely something that me and my wife have figured out in our relationship. We've been together for 13 years that if we make something a priority, like if we have a dedicated space or we have this time set aside each week that we're going to use it instead of
Mhm.
just like, when we go to the gym. No, it's like we work out pretty much the same time every night, every day of the week. And it's a routine and we've gotten into it. And like I said, this isn't something that I just moved in and decided, well, I'm going to build this gym because I don't want to go anymore. We've been working out at home for 10 years probably. And it was kind of one of those things when COVID happened and it closed down. My wife's like, oh, this is great. We've been preparing for this forever because like all fitness, it used to be I could find fitness gear on, marketplace relatively cheap, or I could, cut some pretty good deals or find some good stuff on there. And then it's like COVID happened. And it was just like there was nothing. And we
Nothing.
ended up selling some stuff and just absolutely raking it in because it was like some equipment we didn't use. But we just posted it up and like I had people calling me off the hook for it. And I was like, this is great, or I'm gonna see this on marketplace in like 2 years and I'll be able to buy it back at
I'll
half
buy
the
it back.
price.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'll just buy it back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like the start of every new year. The gyms are always packed until February 1st, and then you're empty.
Which is great. I mean, if you can make it past 21 days, if you are someone who's got a fitness goal or something, if you can make it past 21 days and make it a habit for a couple weeks, your likelihood of making it to a month is way higher. And then if you can make it through that month, your likelihood of making it to 3 months is higher. And then if you can make it
Mhm.
past 3 months, now it's just a part of your life. You don't even think about it. And it's going to be one of those things where if you don't do it, you're going to feel not bad about yourself, but you're going to feel like you're missing something and you'll get right back into it. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, the one that I was going to in town, that they'd have a chalkboard right as you walked in, and they would keep track every time that you use your or thing
nice.
to get in. So they would kind of take attendance, right? So if you were at the top of the leaderboard, you were there every day or multiple times a day, maybe. And I remember I got up to like, I think I was third or fourth on the list. And I was working out. I looked up at the TV and I saw all the COVID stuff happening overseas. I'm like, fuck, I'm glad that's not happening here. And then,
Womp womp.
everything, womp womp, everything shuts down. And it's like, oh, it's doing so good. Anyway, no, we're in a new place now, which is good, but it would be nice to have something right outside your door. But
Yeah.
anyway, so you just got back from, was it 14 days elk hunting?
14 days. It's a long time. That's the longest I've ever been on a hunt. Yeah.
It was Colorado, is that right?
That was Arizona.
Arizona. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So
I did Colorado in September. Had a great went with a guide for the first time. Had a great experience. They were awesome. I will definitely go back to them again, even though I didn't punch a tag. We had ample opportunity. I blew up a couple stocks, just not lit. Well, I blew up a couple stocks not listening to the guide, and then I had it out with him, just joking around because we'd become friends at this point. And he's like, "Yeah, man, you were pretty dead set on getting to where you wanted to go." So like I just said, "Yeah, go ahead." And I was like, "Well, I just paid you to not make me do dumb stuff.
that's,
I paid you to be my bumpers like in
that's right.
bowling. Like if I think I should do this and you don't think it's a good idea, that's what I paid you
Tell me
for." And
no.
he's like,
Yeah.
"Okay, cool. Now we know." I'm like, "Wow, I'm glad it took us till day 3 to figure that out." But no, it was great. It was a great experience, great opportunities. Hard hunt. We were way high up in elevation. So I was not quite prepared for that, but I don't think you
Okay.
can prepare for that, especially just flying in the day of and
Yeah.
I was flying in from Tennessee, so it was like 1,500 feet to like 11,000. So it was like
Wow.
it's a big jump.
It's an
But
adjustment.
again, I talked to him he's taken plenty of clients in that are not physically in shape or think they're in shape, and then they get out there and they end up back in Denver dealing with altitude sickness for 2 days. So it's another testament to being in shape and taking care of yourself. Like I was able to buffer it, not perfectly, but well enough where I could still hunt. But yeah, I did 14 days in Arizona. Not solo entirely. I probably did a week solo, and then I did a week with somebody else who came down and helped me out.
Okay.
And that was just a buddy. That was great. We saw a lot of big bulls, but where they're at, it's just so hard to get on them. They're in just these nasty hell holes and just shrub stuff. I jumped a bull that we ended up getting on phone scope or digicam like 2 days later. That was like probably pushing 360, 370. And I was
Mm-hmm.
15 yards away from him, and neither one of us had any idea. And he just kind of jumped up like because it was like we just can't see, just like busting through the brush, trying to get another 400 yards down this ridge. And yeah, it's like it sucks.
It's
But
a lot harder than what people think. Like I went to BC a couple of years ago. I'm trying to go back like for 2025, but my wife's cousin is a guide out there, so he took me out, and he was like, it's not going to be like Montana. Like you're not going to come over the hill and see like 40 of them. It's going to be
yeah,
thick, thick, thick brush, and they don't even bugle like people think. Like everybody wants to sound like this great big enormous, you know, elk when they bugle every single time, but sometimes it's half that, or it's not even a full cadence. They just I was trying to film it. My son was with me, and I would be like, we're trying to preserve the battery life because I was using solar panels to charge everything, and there was fires going on, so the smoke was covering. So it was hard getting a charge. Anyway, so we turned the camera on, and we'd bugle, and I'd wait, and I'd wait, and I'd wait. I'm like, okay, shut the camera off. And then he'd turn the camera off, and then we'd get a response. That was like,
yeah.
how did we go for like 8 or 9 days? I don't even have a single bugle on the camera. This is insane.
Well, yeah.
It can be pretty hard, that's for sure. But it's not like those quick snippets that we get on YouTube where people,
No, I mean, I joked around last year. I know He goes, no, it's this year going to Colorado. The kid I hired to film for me again this year, he did such a great job last year. I trudged him around. He never complained once. So I was like, you're hired again.
Yeah.
He was like, we were driving up there and he goes, man, it'll just be great if we could day like 4 or 5, like get some struggle in and we punch a big bull. And I'm like, dude, if we could do it tomorrow morning, I'd be thrilled. He goes,
That,
I don't know how I'm going to make a video on you shooting a bull at 9 a.m. on day one. I said, I don't know, but you'll figure it out.
yeah,
Like,
figure it out.
I'm not
Go
worried
for,
about it.
yeah, go
Yeah.
for a hike and get some B-roll. It's fine.
Yeah. Slow-mo is caping it out. I don't know. Like, we'll figure it out.
Lots of
But
slow-mo.
I've done plenty of, I've gone elk hunting where I haven't, I might have seen, or I seen a couple on like the first day and I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. And then you go 4 more days and you don't see anything,
Nothing.
and then vice versa. I've been on hunts where like the Arizona was a great example. We put eyes on a 350 bull 10 of the 14 days. Some of them was the same bull. We just spot him on the hillside because we kind of knew where he was, but we probably put eyes on at least 6 or 7 different 350 bulls, and I couldn't get within. There was a point where I was within 55 yards of 2 nice bulls that would have pushed 300 easy, if not more, and I never had a shot. And I was standing around him for 45 minutes. All I could see was rack,
Yeah.
in the brush, and I'm like, I can't. If I had a 30-06, I could hammer a slug through there.
I know.
But this
We make it so hard.
472 grain UV arrow ain't going through it. Like, I don't care what you're shooting on the front of it, fixed blade, mechanical, field point, it's not going to hit where you want to hit. So I'm just like, I just have to hope they walk in these one opportunity windows that I have, and they never did.
Yeah, it's very. Did you run into a lot of other hunters, or were you pretty?
We ran into a lot of people scouting for the rifle hunt. That was the week after.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And we ran into a ton of people on these glassing knobs, a couple guys that were like, we're like, oh yeah, you seeing anything? They're like, no. And then we glass all night. And I'm like, how are they not seeing? There's a huge bull there. There's another bull there. There's a broken off bull here. And then we go to see him at the truck at the bottom. And they're like, hey, did you guys see the bull? And we're like, yeah. And they're like, yeah, we've been looking at him for 3 days. We just, didn't want to give any information. And I'm like, yeah, but they were like, yeah, if you want to try to go after him, good luck, but just don't do it for the last day to blow it up for the rifle hunt because you're never going to get in there. And I'm like, oh, all right. Tried once and realized what they were talking about. Just walked for 3 miles and just trashed everything I had on briars, thorns. That's when I ended up jumping that bull. Like, he was so close because they're like, yeah, you can see him from 900, 1,000 yards away on this hillside, but as soon as you get over there, forget it. All that scrub bush that looks like it's 4 or 5 feet tall is actually like 12 feet tall. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
Figure that out quick.
Yeah, it's crazy. It can be so frustrating. Like, I think one of the last days we were there in BC, we got onto this one bull. We heard him. We were calling him into this cut block that we were in, and he was getting closer and closer and closer. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this is actually going to happen. Like, my first time out here doing this it's not supposed to be like this. So just as he's coming to basically breach into the cut block we were in, I hear this like car stereo, and this guy comes booming up the logging road in this Chevy Tracker, and his dog's barking, and he stops and jumps out. He's like, hey, I've been hunting that bull for 3 days. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Like, what are you doing? Like, that's great, but guess what? Not today. Like, oh, it was terrible. And then he's like, I got people in there right now trying to push him this way. And then you'd hear the actual elk bugle, and then you'd hear his friend's bugle. I'm like, that's a person. That's real. Yeah. And he's going the opposite direction now. This is fantastic. Yeah. And then we go to sleep and wake up in the morning, and there's tracks going right through our campsite.
Been there.
I'm out. We got to get out of here. It's just like,
yeah.
There's not enough. There's not enough.
Phone's I'm running a little low on the battery, so I'm gonna plug it in.
Okay.
Sorry. Hate to do that to you. I'm just like, I got the notification. I'm like, oh, this will be bad. Abrupt ending. All right.
Yeah, there's not enough failure shown, but no, you don't want to show that all the time because then, right?
You go to Jeff Cordero YouTube channel. I got a lot of them.
I got all kinds of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get it, right? So, like, for me, like, yes, there's a lot of failure, and some of your bigger channels and some of your bigger, your hunting personalities in the industry, they either have really good opportunities because they're afforded those opportunities because of the work they put in to get to the where they're at, or they're really good archers, or they're really hard hustlers, and they do a good job hunting, or they have 30 days. But a lot of them don't particularly post videos where they don't kill anything. Born and Raised did it great when they did the Land of the Free and Land of the Free
Yes.
2.0 and whatever. Like, they did like this whole chronicle, and I can't tell you how many of those videos I watched where I'm like, I know at the beginning of the video they don't kill anything because the thumbnail doesn't have a dead elk on it, but I'll watch two
I want to
hours
watch.
of it.
Oh yeah.
And my
Yeah.
wife
Yeah.
is like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm interested, like I'm stuck into this." So I know when I started creating content, it was one of those things like, I am taking all this time to go on this elk hunt, to carry a camera around, hire somebody to follow me around with a camera. I'm going to get content that I can use on social media and pictures and all the other stuff, but I'm still going to make a full length video,
Yep.
whatever it is, and put this up because I feel like it's just as important to be like, hey, like, yeah, I won the tack truck, but what you didn't see is how many arrows I shot at 111 yards here at my house and how much money I've given to Total Archery Challenge over the last couple of years trying to win that truck. So it's like,
That's right.
if I would have posted a video where I shot 21 of my 22 arrows, because I think I got it in on my like 21st arrow or my 20th arrow, like,
Mhm.
and I just posted that, like, you might not wanna watch it, but that's what it took to get that one in there, and that one arrow I had, that one entry was good enough to get out of the other 220 people, so it was like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I see it as an opportunity to create content, and I'm going to post that content no matter what happens because I feel like it's important because I think like we talked about earlier, what a lot of people only see is the 15-minute success of, X person going out. Oh, we'll go up over this ridge. We go here, we bugle. You get the bugle. They go over the corner. This elk's walking right in front of them at like 13 yards, perfectly broadside, and they just center punch it. And you're just like, yeah, that'd be awesome. But like, it doesn't happen for everybody, especially
No.
like in the years where I knew nothing about elk hunting the first time I went. And I just like, I'll figure it out. Like, they're out here, people do it. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I'm also willing to work. So it's like, if I work hard enough, I'll put myself in
Mhm.
an opportunity. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why I post them.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm the same. It's going up no matter what. I keep saying I gotta at least throw one good one in there where it's right, but
Yeah.
try it, right?
I tell my wife, I'm like, yeah, man, like I'm getting pretty good, like pretty steady growth in the channel, like month over month, year over
Oh yeah.
year. And it's one of those like we've set out goals like every couple of years, like, hey, this is what we want to do at the end of this year. This is what I want to do at the end of this is by the time we go to hunting season or end of June or July, this is where I kind of want to be like viewership wise. And if I can create good content that people are enjoying and watching, the quality of it's good, like I think I can get there. And she goes, yeah, now imagine what happens if you actually kill something. And I'm like, thanks.
Ah, wow.
There's
Just
always
like
that one little jab, always. Yeah, but
you're doing so good though.
I'm like, uh,
Don't
yeah.
worry, you're not alone. You're not alone.
No,
How much is your whitetail season over, or do you still have some time?
I still have time, but I'm done.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow is the 31st, so tomorrow technically is the last day in the
Okay.
county I'm living in, but another county that I have hunting property in, I could hunt that until like I think it's February 15th this year.
Oh wow.
So
That's
well,
awesome.
it's urban archery season, so it's like in a populated area. You can only hunt on
Oh,
private land, and they're trying to cull deer out of that. So
that's
I mean,
amazing.
that's typically when my best success has been is in that late archery season,
Mhm.
because there's no food source anywhere. Acorns are gone. You just throw out them golden acorns, and they just come flocking into them. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I try not to shoot a bunch of does that time of year because usually they've been bred or they are pregnant. So it's like, kill a small buck or something. Like, I don't care.
Mhm. Yeah, ours is over tomorrow, so I
Yeah.
got up this morning to go out and, it was raining sideways, and there was about a 60-kilometer-an-hour wind. It was blowing shit off my porch, and I was
To go
like,
back to bed.
"I could go out there, but I don't know
Yeah,
how
it's
useful
not
that would be
happening.
if I if I have to shoot into that wind." Like,
Oh.
don't know where it's gonna go. Like I don't have any problems sitting in the rain. I've done it before. I've
Yeah.
sat in snowstorms before, but I was just like, just be smart about this. I don't think maybe I'll wait a bit. And then I went back to sleep, woke up, and it was a little bit better. But I'm going out tomorrow morning. It's my last kick at it. So, but the numbers here have been like we haven't seen very much here, and it's just been a weird year with like I'm not trying to throw out excuses, but the weather's been all over the place, and there just hasn't been a whole lot going on, at least where I am. So I'll have to put in a whole lot more scouting next year.
Is it
But
just you're not seeing them or you're not getting trail cam photos of them? I'm just curious.
so I used to so the place my wife's cousin has 300 acres up north that I go up to, and I get a week up there for bear and a week up there for deer. So for the week I was up there for deer, I didn't see anything. I didn't have anything on my camera. I think the guy who owns the property got one and nobody else did. And then I had set up a camera near my cottage property. We got a bunch of public land up there, and I was getting a lot of does, but at night, and there wasn't any bucks coming through. I'm like, well, they're in the area, but they're not here when I need them to be here. So clearly, I'm in kind of the right area, but I'm not in exactly where I need to be. So I need to go scout that a little bit more. And then I got permission from the farmer directly across the street. So I'm like, this is perfect. Cornfield, come on.
It's
It's
right
gotta be,
here.
it's a given, right? So I
Yeah.
set up a camera and I had a few that were like running by when the corn was still up, but they weren't I felt so stupid. I'm like, I'm dumping a bag of corn in a cornfield, right? They had cut like the first couple of rows, but I was trying to
Yeah.
get them obviously to a certain spot because I was tucked back in the trees a bit, and they were running past, not even giving a shit about anything that I was putting out. And why would they? They've got a whole huge field to go after. And then the corn comes down, and basically they packed up and moved away. I haven't seen a single thing on camera since then. It's like
Yeah.
this was supposed to be the spot. Nope.
Yeah. Well,
So,
hey, I've been there. I've had hunting properties or little parcels that, I've had great deer activity on, have had 5, 6 bucks there in the summer, and then they go nowhere. Like they go somewhere. They're just not here. And
mhm,
then, I might not see a pile of bucks in there for a year or two. I might get a couple does the next year, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's like I get 5 or 6 bucks again. I haven't seen 5 or 6 bucks there. I haven't seen a buck there in like 3 years.
yeah,
So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I ain't quite figured it out. I'm not the guy that goes and whitetail hunts, 100 days a year or does 50 sits, full day sits a year. I go out when I can, and I do a lot, and I travel. That's the other thing too. I travel a lot with NASCAR. It's 40 weeks of the year. I think we ended up. I was gone like 100 days last year between hunting and NASCAR. So
mm,
when I'm when I'm home, I want to be home. I want to spend time with the wife and do the things like I have a lot of house projects and everything to do like everybody else. So, I'm trying to like balance all of it. And sometimes the hunting stuff is just like if I'm not getting good activity on camera, I'm just probably not gonna go. Like I could probably sit an extra 30 sits a year, but if there's nothing on camera that's got me like, oh, I want to go, like then
mhm,
why am I gonna go sit out there in the rain and maybe the chance something comes by, but like the little area that I have, I know the deer movement really well, especially behind my house now. And I'm just not seeing a lot of the stuff I want to see. So it's just, yeah, just keep cutting some woods down, put in a food plot next year, do the things just to kind of keep deer around more year round
right,
because it's
yeah,
really good bedding by me, but they typically get up and go,
right,
pretty quick. So I'm just trying to keep them lingering around a little bit longer before they go across the street into the ag field. So it's one of those deals where I'm just like, I know what they're doing. I know exactly where they bed. I mean, I can go out there tonight with the thermal light and probably spot one 60 yards off my wood line. Like I know exactly where they are, but
mhm,
it's just I don't have anything out there that I'm like super thrilled about. And so I'm just like, I'm probably not gonna go.
yep, yep. Well, we put it in when we can do it, and it's funny. I thought to myself this morning, I'm like, in January, February, March, you're gonna be like, I should have gone out in that rainstorm, and I was like, yeah, but maybe not, right? Because maybe not because like it was just didn't make sense. Anyway, yeah, no, it's a struggle every year. You got to put in the time, and that I remember watching a guy, I can't remember his name. He does a lot of like suburban hunting where he's getting
It's not
permission.
Seek One, is it?
No,
Oh, okay.
no, it was somebody else. I can't remember his name. Anyway, and he had a couple videos he put up where it was like you'd see everybody backing out of their driveway, going to
Oh
work.
yeah.
School bus would come, take off, and then all of a sudden everybody's gone, and out come the deer, and they're just going after all the plants and the flowers and everybody's property, and it's just like a zoo. So
That one property that I have that's urban archery, I can watch a dude's TV with my binoculars into his, into his living room. Like, if his blind's open, I can see exactly what he's watching on TV. Like, that's how it is. That's how those guys down in Atlanta do it. In Georgia, Seek One.
yeah,
I mean, they kill monsters down there. I'm not killing anything like that up here in North Carolina, but I mean,
no,
I'm sure that inside of the city limits in Charlotte, I'm sure they exist. I know people that run on the Greenway and see huge deer. So it's like,
mhm.
yeah, they're not always, not every hunt's got to be this elaborate backpack hunt. Some of it can just be right outside your back door. I mean, heck, there's plenty of times if I had my bow in my kitchen, I could have just stepped out in the back porch and shot one, if I wanted to fill a freezer. But yeah, I don't know. I still like getting up in the tree stand and doing the blind.
Yeah.
It doesn't make quite a good video.
Are you still using the saddle?
Yeah, still, I probably hunted it out of it 50-50 this year
Okay,
between tree stand and saddle. I like some of the tree stand locations that I have because I have one that I don't have to sit in it but 3 times, and I know I can kill a buck out of it, if they're there. If I
right,
have them on trail camera, I know if the wind condition is right and, like, the pressure's right, I know I can get in that stand within the first 3, I can get one killed, and then I don't touch that stand again for the rest of the year because I don't wanna
right.
booger it up. Um, and then I have another stand at my house that's just easy to get in and out of where there's no setup. It's super simple. I do the saddle, especially when I go hunt this other farm. Um, he's constantly moving cattle around the fields. So
Okay,
depending on where he has his cattle, I go hunt the opposite fields because that's typically where when they push the cattle and the deer get pushed out, at least initially. So I try to it keeps me where I can move, where I have general locations that I like to hunt, but I don't have anything set up there. And then at my house, I actually have a platform hung up right off my yard. Like I'm talking, I walk across the grass before it turns into leaves. That's where the tree is. I climb up the tree. It's got the platform in it. So it's super easy to get in and out of. It's right there on my property line, like my
that's
yard
awesome.
line. So it's quiet. And yeah, I just like it. The saddle's a little more comfortable to sit in, my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, I got one this year, and you can just go, almost all the way around the tree. There's so much flexibility there. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So good. Anyway, we're coming up to an hour here. I don't want to talk your ear off all night, but let everybody know how they can find you.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube. It's just Jeff Cordero on YouTube. Pull it up, probably the first thing to come up. And then on social media, it's at Jeff Cordero _. I do a lot more on my Instagram. That's more the day-to-day stuff, and then all the long form stuff usually gets put on YouTube. So you can follow both, and they're not going to be exactly the same. Get a good mix.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks again for coming on, and I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. Appreciate
All
it.
right. Take care.